So I'm going to ask a question, like, because it just come to me actually, and I think it's a very good wordplay. So if we got receptors in the brain, that means empty pockets in the mind. The mind is empty. And I'm saying this with everything, but still, just think about it for a second. Just a hot one. If the brain has empty pockets, and let's say marijuana, or we say coffee, or we say anything else like that, is jumping into a receptor that then makes you feel complete. The receptor holds on to this for a little while. Oh, now I feel high. Oh, okay, now I feel caffeinated. Okay, then all the above, heroin and everything else. It's now jumped into a receptor. The brain is now complete with this in the receptor. Brain is complete, holding on to something. And then it lets go, doesn't it? One drops out. Another one comes in. Douche. Now the feeling keeps going and going and going. So if we have loads of empty pockets in our brain, are our brains ever, truly ever going to be full? Because you would have to fill all of those pockets with something, information. And therefore, that would then be a completed mind. I mean, is it even possible, first of all, to fill all of the receptors in the brain to find the objects that fit those puzzle pieces that cause a response? Again, you could say that people that take mushrooms would say, oh, it's a drug, it's this. Well, it's also another way of living. It's it's there with a receptor that something will hold on to, a response or chemical response, different things. If you could fill all of the receptors, I mean, wouldn't that be a complete mind? A mind that is complete. And then I ask the question, has there ever been a complete mind with so many empty pockets, i.e. receptors with things that are missing? And some of the receptors, we don't even know what jumps in those pockets. So when you think about that, then, there are parts of the mind that will always be empty. Literally. Because this information, we don't know what that receptor is for. We know it's a receptor, but what plugs that gap? Well, that's a mystery. We haven't found it yet. Then how could we truly know that we use our minds fully? Well, technically, if we've got empty pockets. So then I wonder, is a full mind with all of those receptors all found and pressed? My question is, what is the type of being at the end of that? We know what happens when those receptors are empty. Cranky, grouchy, withdraw. Even coffee makes you withdraw. You know, you're feeling it. You're out. You're in a town somewhere. Oh, I've got to go shopping here. Well, usually if you're at home or wherever it is, you have access to coffee. You drink coffee. But now you're out. We ain't got time. 4 hours have just flown by. And usually you would have plugged this gap with a lot of coffee. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you do. Now you're out and you're no longer plugging that gap. And the whole shopping experience, you'll say, is, oh, it's a fucking nightmare. Well, it's not. It's because you're withdrawing. You're feeling it. And now everything is grinding your nerves now because it's making you cranky. Yet, if you were to take yourself out of that moment for a second and think, what do I usually do at home? I usually drink coffee. Okay, what do the kids usually have when they're at home? Well, when I'm having a coffee, they might snack on something. None of these things have taken place today. Everybody's feeling it. Everything's out of the routine of the norms, if you like. That means that I need to stop for a second. We need to go somewhere. And yes, perhaps a parent might need to just take a breath, sit down, take one off the load, you know, have a coffee and replenish that loss. And then see whether the rest of the day, and then looking back on that moment compared to any other shopping day that you've ever been shopping, you never did that. And it was a horrible experience. But today, you decided to do it different. You were going to plug the gap with the caffeine. The kids, if they have sweets at home, you gave them to them on this particular day. Again, sugar rush. Sugar. They're lacking in something that is not normal, outside the normality, and now we're rushing here, there, and everywhere, burning energy, so we're burning what we've got left, our stockpiles, going through the cafe. And now we're all at tender pins with each other. Now it's turned into a nightmare. But we stop and say, hang on, we need to have some coffee. Kids, come on, let's go get something. This is what we usually do at home. Let's just stop for a minute. Mum drinks coffee, Dad drinks coffee. And then they leave and go back to the shopping. Well, wouldn't you know, the situation has changed. It's an enjoyable experience now. Mum and Dad are bouncing off of each other a bit better. The children are feeling this euphoric, as you do, and we all do. And now the experience on the look back session is, that was a good day. But no one ever contributed it to coffee and withdrawal.
coffee and some sweets, yeah.
Because we were all withdrawing in this because we took a step out of our normal day-to-day, and that receptor has spat out all of those. And now there's no more to replace that. Now the brain is saying, I want some coffee, cigarettes. So yeah, it often makes me wonder, how complete are we? Will we ever be? What happens if you were able to push all of these receptors at the same time? Can a human being actually tolerate something like that? If they could tolerate it, does it make them better or worse? Does it activate genius? The more of the receptors that are complete, that's information, energy, something is being transmitted through this. This is info. Then there's response from this info. And then, am I seeing life correctly? That if I can block a receptor and it twists my reality a little bit, how do I not know that that ain't the true definition of reality? With the full receptors, and that without all of these receptors full, this is just merely snippets. And the more receptors you get in, the more you get more. And then you add more. Whoa, I'm seeing a lot more. There's a lot more coming. What? So the mind full does more, sees more, is able to use imagination in a bit more of a way. So we could say then that everybody has an empty mind. So is information jumping into receptors? And it holds on to pieces of information in the same way. And if it's a strong bond between this information, it's going to hold it. It's going to lock hands with each other. But if it starts to not do a purpose too much, well, it can sort of let go of that info and drop it off. And keep another receptor open for another moment that I might need to pay attention to later. I might need to hold this one a little bit more so. Yeah, I'm going to hold this situation. This become a belief system. Receptor, holding, information retaining, holding on to a response. Behavior. And what alters our behavior? Withdrawal. Interesting, isn't it? And then what about if you're hungry? That's a withdrawal in food.
Yeah.
Cranky.
Yeah, it is.
So I wonder if you could make an experience more better just by simply doing the same things and trying to bring that out with you when you go out and when you feel those moments when if it gets too much, to try that.
Yeah, go somewhere or take something with you or just observe it.
Yeah. And then see if it changes the perspective and your mindset in that moment, and then it will then look like a caffeine thing or a withdrawal thing or little things, I guess.